Welcome to the channel, friends. So today's video is going to be covering the setup and install settings menu of the Honeywell Home RTH7600D. This is a programmable thermostat with 7-day scheduling. Some things I like about it is that it has a nice large LCD backlit display, 7-day programming. It has automatic heat and cool changeover, as well as smart response, and it's compatible with most systems. But I'm going to have this video cover the setup and install settings and the menu options, but I will have separate videos for 7-day scheduling, manual override to temperature temp override, as well as factory reset and lock and unlock in separate videos. Now, if you're interested in those, please check those out. I'll link them in the upper cards on the top right. But let's get into the setup and install settings menu. Now, when you first plug this thing in, it's going to ask you for the time and date, okay? As you can see here, we're already in the main kind of display screen homepage, but I'm going to show you exactly how to get there afterwards if you just kind of went right through it really quick and didn't set up your time and date. But the first thing you do is you can operate the thermostat from these 5 rectangular buttons here. It's a touch screen, okay? But it's only touchscreen along those 5 buttons, not on the rest of the screen. The rest of the screen will not work as a touch screen. And it does work with a stylus. So we have the up and down arrow, which is for up and down selection of your temperature set point and options. And then we have 3 buttons across the bottom, and that's going to do your system mode and fan, okay? Then your scheduling, and then your clock and more. So we're going to click on clock and more for right now. And this is going to allow you to change your time. So you can go ahead and fix the time on the thermostat. Very important when you first set the thermostat up from scratch. So once you do that, you can hit next, and I'll show you that it brings you right into the filter reminder screen. So you can reset that, or you can just, use it as a reminder to see how many days are left on the filter reminder. Okay, so we're going to hit done on that. Okay, so to get into that hidden menu where you can fix all those other settings that are very important to check out and see what they're set at, and to make a different selection if needed, you have to first hit the system and fan button, okay? And then go and hold the fan button itself for like 5 seconds. So now it's going to bring you into this menu where you have to basically select all these different functions and then the setting here that is flashing right now. Now, I'm going to go through these functions and the settings, what they mean, really briefly and summarize them. And then we're going to get into the install of the base plate and kind of go over the wires as well. But right here is where you make your selection, and then you would hit next, okay? You would hit next and cycle through the functions, the different functions here, and make your selection. And then when you're done, you would hit done. So let's do that one more time. We're going to hit the system and fan button. It's going to bring us to this different screen, and then we're going to hold down the fan button and just repeat this so you guys can see. And there you have it. We're back in the ISU settings menu, essentially. This is what's the advanced installation menu. It's hidden. It's not very easy to access, but it's something you have to address when you first install this thermostat and make sure all the settings are correctly set to the way you like. So we're just going to hit done with this. Okay, and I'm going to move this out of the way, and we're going to go right to the manual, because the manual is going to give us exactly what each one of these functions do. I'm going to read them off one by one. That way we can go through this together and basically briefly summarize each one of these, okay? So as you're going through each one of those functions, they're going to be, let's see, make sure you can see that. It's going to be function 0120, 0130, 0140, and so on, okay? So I'm just going to address them as the last 2 digits, so 20, 30, 40, 50, etc., okay? So as you can see here, it shows you kind of a brief description of the advanced installation, changing settings, and then getting to that page that I just showed you that we're on, okay? So I'll put that in there as a screenshot so you guys can take a look. Some people beat me up for going over the manual. It's like, well, most people don't even keep the manual. So yes, I will refer to the manual and go over each one of these settings and kind of summarize together with you guys on the video. But anyways, let's get into this. So the first function is 0120, okay? And this is where you would set the year and so on. So these first few settings are to set the year, the month, the day, and so on of your time and date, okay? So 20 is the year setting. So it's the first 2 digits. So your options are 20 or 21, obviously, to select the year. Then function 30 is the last 2 digits of the year. So this is where you would, since it's 2025, you would put 25, okay? So as you can see here, the previous owner did some like writing into the manual here, so they could get through the process. You can do that if you want. It's very helpful, I guess. But anyways, function 40 is setting the month. Okay, so you have an option of basically 1 to 12 on that one. So you select whatever month you're on. That's self-explanatory. It's very easy. And then the next one is setting the date. Okay, so that's the day itself. So since today is like the 28th, I put 28 in there. Okay, so select 28 and hit done. And then here we have the next one, which is 0170 on the next page here, and that's select system type. This is going to be the type of heating and cooling system you have in your home. So number 1 is going to be heat, cool, gas, oil, or electric heating with central air conditioning. That's number 1. Number 2 is going to be heat pump without backup or auxiliary heat. Number 3 is going to be heat only, gas, oil, electric, without central air conditioning. So depending on what you have, you're going to want to, check these off accordingly and select the proper one in your thermostat. Number 4 is heat only with fan. Gas, oil, or electric heat without central air conditioning. Number 5 is hot water, heat only, no fan. Gas, oil, or hot water heat without central air conditioning. Number 6 is cool only, central air conditioning only. Number 7 is going to be heat pump with backup or auxiliary heating. Number 8 is heat cool multiple stages. 2 heat stages and 2 cooling stages. 9 is going to be heat cool multiple stages, 2 stages, and also 1 cooling stage. Okay, that's number 9. And the only difference is it has 1 cooling stage versus 2 cooling stages like number 8. And number 10, the very last one, heat cool multiple stages, 1 heat stage, and 2 cooling stages. So it's the opposite of number 9. Moving along, we have function 80, and that's going to be heating fan control. 0 is going to be gas or oil heat. Use this setting if you have a gas or oil heat system. System controls fan operation. The number 1 selection would be electric heat. Use this setting if you have electric heating system thermostat controls fan operation. Function 90, the next one, is going to be heat pump changeover valve for heat pumps only. Now 0 is going to be cooling changeover valve. Use this setting if you have a wire connected labeled O to the OB terminal. Okay, O is going to be your orange wire, if you don't know that. Number 1 selection is going to be heating changeover valve or reversing valve. Use this setting if you have a wire connected labeled B to the OB terminal. So B is the brown wire. Okay, so orange wire, brown wire, those control your reversing valve, whether it's for heating or cooling. And the way to think of it is that O is cooling because you have 2 O's in cooling, so it refers to cooling, versus brown is for heating. That's how I remember it, because O is for cooling, 2 O's in it, versus the brown wire, which heating has no O's. Okay, so that's how I decipher those two and I kind of remember them. But anyways, the next function is 0 to 40. Okay, so 0 to 40. Heating cycle rate. Number 5 selection is going to be gas or oil furnace, standard gas oil furnace, less than 90% efficiency. Number 9, electric furnace, electric heating system. 3 is going to be heat pump, hot water or high efficiency furnace, hot water system or gas furnace more than 90% efficiency. Selection 1 is going to be gas, oil, steam, or gravity system, steam or gravity heat systems. And those are your selections for heating cycle rate. Okay, so moving along to 0270 function. It's emergency heat cycle rate, and the only selection you have is 9, which is electric furnace, electric heating systems. The next one is going to be 0300 function, and that's going to be manual or auto changeover. This one's pretty easy. 0 is manual changeover for heat, cool, and off selection on your modes. And then number 1 selection is going to be automatic changeover. You have heat, cool, auto changeover, and off. So you have 4 selections versus 3. You have the addition of the auto changeover setting. And that basically allows you to do an auto changeover between heat and cool. Almost there we're with this list here. So 0320, that's a temperature format, Fahrenheit or Celsius. 0 is Fahrenheit, 1 is Celsius. 0330 is daylight savings time on, off. Okay, 0 is off, 1 is on. So it's going to automatically change over to the daylight savings. And number 2 selection is on, auto change to daylight savings time 2007 and beyond. Okay, so 1 would be for the use of areas that do not use. So 1 is so it looks like number 1 is for areas that do not use the new 2007 DST, Daylight Savings Times calendar. Number 2 is for the areas that use the new 2007 DST calendar, Daylight Savings calendar. So I guess you have to figure out what area you're in the country or in the world, and accordingly fix your setting to whatever makes sense with this. It's either you use it or you don't use the 2007 standard. But 0 is going to be off, no adjustment to daylight savings time. The very next one's going to be 0500, and it's furnace filter change reminder. 0 is off, 1 is going to be reminder in 1 month, 2 is 3 months, 3 is 6 months, 4, 9 months, 5, 1 year, 6, 3 years. I recommend you, check that at least once a year, so set that to 1 year. The very next one is going to be 0530, and that's smart response technology. 1 is on, 0 is off. This is basically a preheating or pre-cooling of the home or the heating system to catch up at a certain time threshold. So if you want to have it set to like 78 at 8 o'clock in the morning, it's going to start heating to 78 at like 6:30 or even 6 o'clock, depending on what it thinks it needs as a kind of preheat schedule or pre-cool schedule. Moving along to the next one, which is 0600. That's going to be maximum heat setting, 90 degrees. There's a that's going to be the default, but you can change the setting from 40 to 89 degrees. Okay. The very next one is 0610, and it's minimum cool setting. So you can set your minimum cool setting. It's set to 50 degrees. Other options are 51 to 99 degrees. And the very last one is 0640, and that's the clock format. You're either going to have 12 for a 12-hour time clock or 24 for a 24-hour time clock, and that's self-explanatory. And that is the ISU list or menu. Now, for the very last part of the video, I'm going to go over the backside of the thermostat, the base plate, and some of the more conventional wiring setups you would see for heating and cooling on your thermostat. Now, to remove the base plate or remove the thermostat from the base plate, you want to pull straight off the wall, okay? It's attached with tabs on the inside of the unit here, and then once you do that, you'll expose the base plate here. Okay, first we're just going to go over really quick. We have 2 AA batteries here, and nothing else really going on besides the terminals, these pins that are attached to the back of the thermostat on the circuit board. So there's no switches, no like settings or jumper pins that you have to, acknowledge or, set properly. Just 2 batteries, and this is where you would replace your batteries and put in some new ones. So let's put that aside, and let's take a look now at the base plate. The base plate is very straightforward. We have 2 sets of scales here, or types. We have conventional, which is the inside font, and then we have heat pump, which is the outside font. So anything related to heat pump would be on the outside. You would use the labeling on the outside. Anything on a conventional system, you would use the inside labeling. Now I'm going to go really quick what these mean. So this is a standard 5-wire system, or 4-wire plus a common wire, which is also called a C-wire. This blue C-wire, the common wire, will provide power to the thermostat without the batteries. Okay, that's what it does. This green wire, the next one, on the G terminal, that's for your fan. So you're going to need that if you have forced hot air or central air cooling. So you're going to need that G wire to the G terminal for that fan. The next one is the yellow wire, which goes to the Y terminal, and that is for your first stage cooling. Okay, that's what that takes care of, and that's the triggered wire for that. The next one is the trigger wire for the heating, your first stage heating. After that, we have a red wire. This is the 24-volt supply wire for the R terminal. So that's for your heating transformer, and then the RC, which is the one right above it. Okay, you can see it on this side better without the wires blocking it. So you have R and RC. These are essentially the same exact thing. They accept a 24-volt wire from the transformer for heating or cooling. Now, what you can do, a little trick, is that, as you see here from the factory, it included a jumper. It looks like a little staple. And that basically bridges power from the R terminal to the RC terminal, which is totally okay. It basically is powering up both the heating circuit and the cooling circuit, okay? That's going to transfer power from here over to your switched circuits here, such as this white wire or the yellow wire for cooling. White wire is for heating, okay? First stage. So this here, these 2 terminals, RC and R, is for your red wire. Depending on if it's heat only, cool only, or if you have both, you need that jumper. Okay, just the way you see it there. You connect it to one side with the red wire, and then you bridge that connection to supply RC 24 volts as well. Okay. Now, some other connections you would make here on the inside on a conventional system is the W2 and the Y2, which means that's basically the white wire second stage heating, and then the yellow wire Y2 second stage cooling. Okay, you would have other wires associated with that, and you would plug them in there. But that's the common one, the common conventional system. If you had these 2 wires here, okay, you see an orange wire or a brown wire, that would go for your heat pump, and it's over in this terminal here for the O/B, so orange or brown. And depending on what you have hooked up, whether it's for cooling or heating, orange is for cooling, brown is for heating to control the reversing valve. And you would hook that up at the OB terminal, okay? But that there covers your basic, your setup, your basic wiring, and kind of what the base plate looks like, and so on. Please check out my other videos covering this thermostat here. This is a great thermostat. I really like how large this display is. It's easy to see. You can see the time and the values very easily. I'm really enjoying this thermostat, and its ease of use. 2 simple AA batteries. They will last a long time compared to some others, such as AAA batteries, which really don't last that long. But let's get into just programming this device, which is very important for you to use it properly and to its full extent. The very first thing you want to do is kind of get familiar with the button layout. You really only have 5 touchscreen buttons here. So you have the up and down arrow, and then you have 3 buttons across the bottom, and then the rest of the screen here does nothing. Okay, so if you click on the rest of the screen, it's not going to do much. So on the screen here, we have, this is the current temperature of the room, okay? This here is the set point temperature. So as you select a different set point temperature, it's going to change here accordingly, okay? So we're going to get into that when we do manual override and different things like that. But here we're going to be covering the 7-day schedule of programming of this device. And at the bottom here, we can do that. There's a schedule button, but first we're going to go over the system and fan button. So this is where you select your mode. You have heat, cool, off, and auto, okay, as a selection. And then your fan, you want to make sure that you have that set to auto. You don't want it to be set to on, because if it's set to on, it's going to stay on continuously, indefinitely, 24/7. You don't want that. So we want to make sure that the fan is set to auto. We want to select the system heating type that we're using. So we're just going to go for heat for today on this here. And cycle through that and make sure heat is highlighted and hit done. Okay, so we're going to be setting the heat schedule, and we have our fan on auto. And then one more thing before you go ahead and set the schedule is that make sure your time is correct. So we want to make sure our time and AM or PM is very important, okay? On this thermostat, it's easy to see, but other thermostats, you will never realize that some people screw this thing up and have their schedule completely inverted because they get the AM and PM wrong because the font is so small on some of the other older Honeywell thermostats. But this is the reason why I like this thermostat, because the font is so large and you can easily see it. So we want to set our clock, so we do clock and more on this button here. Here we can adjust the time, okay? So we're going to adjust the time accordingly, and make sure also here we have the day. If this day is not correct, you're going to have to fix it in the settings menu and watch my other video for that, because you have to go to the settings menu, the hidden settings menu in here to fix the day, okay? You cannot fix it by just selecting the time. This is only for time, and then you would hit OK. But check out my settings menu video if you want to learn how to change that, date, time, and all that stuff. Time of year, month, and day. You have to do that through the settings menu, okay? Not through this quick kind of button here on the screen. But let's get into the scheduling. Okay, this is the whole point of the video. But I had to get those things out of the way because they're very important. You want to make sure the time in the AM or PM is set correctly. You have no idea how many times that screws things up and screws people up. It screwed me up, okay, at one point. But anyways, let's hit the schedule button. And the layout is very simple, okay? You have Monday through Sunday. You're going to go ahead and select your day. You have to select each day, one by one, and then go hit in here. You can either do view. Okay, you can view it here. You can cycle through the periods of the day. You have 4 periods of the day. You want to set each one of these periods correctly to what you want. You have to go through this and do this for every single one of the days. Okay, it's very important for you to do this. So you get to select, if you hit edit, we can now, I usually tend to start with wake. Okay, I want to start with wake and then go to the next period and so on. But as you see here, the wake period is selected, and then now we want to decide what is the time for the wake period, okay? We're just going to put that to like 6 o'clock or something, okay? Something normal, okay? But for you, it might be different, okay? So we're just going to go 6 o'clock and then hit next or step, okay? And it should go to the set point temperature. We want that to be 70 degrees in the room or the bedroom, okay? Say if this is in the bedroom. And then after that, we're going to step to the next one. And now, as you see, it went to the cool. So it allows you to set the heating first and then the cooling set point next, okay? So this will do both schedules. You don't have to go back through another menu or screen to do it. You're going to do it all right here for the wake period, for Monday, okay? As you see here, the day selected. So we're going to go to 72 for that, for cooling. And then we're going to hit done. And then we're going to hit next. So then it went to the next time period. If you were to hit done, it would just bring you to the previous page, okay? So when you hit next, it's just going to go from wake to leave, then to return, then to sleep. So you have to do that for each one of these periods. Set the time threshold where you want it to set that certain particular set point temperature, and then select the temperature for heating first and then cooling. It's really as simple as that, okay? And you would do this for each one of these as you step through here, okay? As you can see, we're stepping through here, and it just keeps on giving us a time and then a set point, a time and then a set point, time and set point for each one of these periods. And let's go through the sleep period and see what happens next. It just restarts to the wake period, okay? So you can go back over and just kind of reference and recheck the wake period, leave period, and so on. When you're done with Monday, because we're on Monday right now, you just hit done. It's going to say saved. Okay. And then we're going to go back into that by hitting schedule button there, that middle button. And then now we're going to go to Tuesday and hit edit. Okay. And the same thing's going to happen here. We're going to start with wake, leave, return, sleep, and we're going to set the time and the temperature. The time and the temperature. And you have to do this, okay? Don't use this thermostat without having this set in the background first. Because running the schedule is going to be the best thing for you. You want to set it so, you know, it's a kind of an efficient time and temperature for your needs, okay? And it allows you to tailor, you know, the heating and cooling as you are home or not home. So that's the whole benefit of doing that, is that you can really dial it down when you're not home and then dial it back up when you're home. You never really want to, you know, go past a 4-degree differential. Check out my 5 common mistakes for thermostats. That's a recent video I did. I will link it in the cards up below in the top right. So check that out on the 5 common mistakes people do with Honeywell thermostats. But that'll give you guys some ideas on what you can do to help that and avoid certain problems or common mistakes. But anyways, the schedule button is very easy to use. You would go through each one of these. Like I said, each one of these is going to be an individual day. You have to set them individually, okay? You can't copy and paste. Some thermostats allow you to do that, but this does not, okay? Same thing with a Saturday or Sunday. You know, it starts off on wake, and then you have 4 periods to set, okay? Time and temperature, same thing. And then once you're done with that, you can go back, cancel. Okay, so in the event that you were in some kind of like hold or kind of temporary override, you know, to get out of a hold or anything, to run the schedule or to go back into any schedule when this thing is running, if you're unsure of its current state, just go ahead and click the schedule button, or here it says use schedule. So this means it's in some kind of override. You would hit use schedule. As soon as you do that, it's going to go right back into the normal schedule set points for the default programming you have set in the device, in the thermostat. So sometimes Honeywell thermostats will have a run button. This is equivalent to hitting the run button, okay? You hit the schedule button, and that will bring you right out of any other override and just have the thermostat follow its program schedule 7 days a week, okay? And that's going to be it. Now, really quick, I want to cover what these 5 buttons do. We have the up and down arrow here, and then we have the system mode, okay, for heating, cooling, or off, or auto changeover. Then the scheduling button here in the center, and then also the clock button, okay? We really don't need that for manual override because we're just going to get it up and going, and we want it to operate like a manual thermostat. Now, in order to do that, it's as simple as using the up and down arrows, okay? And that's going to start changing this here, which is your temperature set point. Your desired set point, we're going to say we want it to be 78 degrees, okay? And then we can just leave it there, and it's going to be temporary hold. Now, this is going to temporarily hold 78 degrees of a set point because we're in the heating mode, okay? We have fan and auto, so it's automatically going to turn on with the heating system. And here we have the room temperature. The room temperature is 69 degrees. Okay, and this will take some time to come up to temperature. Okay, this is not going to be an instant thing. As soon as you change this, the thermostat's not going to instantly make the room, 78 degrees. It might take up to 10 hours, 12 hours, depending on the size of your home and the efficiency of the system, okay, and other factors. But anyways, that is a temporary override. All we did was use the up and down arrow and then let it sit, okay? Just don't touch anything else after that, after letting it change. It's flashing, and then it goes solid. And then to get out of this, okay, it's very simple. As you can see here, the schedule button turned into a use schedule button, which is kind of like the old run button on the Honeywell thermostats. So if you want to run the normal schedule, all you have to do is hit this button here in the center, the touch screen button, and it goes right back to the normal scheduled set point, okay? It is not going to temporarily hold anymore. As you can see, the temporary function got removed from the top here. And now it's basically running its normal 7-day program schedule. So that there is the first way of temporary override the unit. Now, the more permanent manual override for permanent hold is as simple as just doing like we did. So we want to go to 78. Okay. And then we're going to hit this button that says hold here. Okay, so as soon as we did that, we see a permanent hold show up here, like above the third button, the clock button. It says permanent hold. Now this here will keep the thermostat at a set point of 78 degrees for the heating mode indefinitely. So until you come back here and you either change it using the up and down arrow, or you come here and do basically the run button, which is the use schedule button. So we're going to hit use schedule, okay? And as you can see, that disappeared. The permanent hold disappeared, and now we're back into the normal programmed schedule of the thermostat. It is highly recommended that you program the schedule for 7 days on the thermostat before you start using it in your home and, having it run your heating and cooling system. Because in the background, you want it to really be programmed. Okay, this is a programmable thermostat, but I understand people want to manually override it for some reason, whether it's just a Airbnb or some other kind of situation where you just want a temporary relief for the heating or cooling system. But let's get into lock and unlock and factory reset. Now, this is going to be kind of disappointing, but there is no lock and unlock of this thermostat. Okay, that function does not exist. Even though it's available in other Honeywell thermostats, the lock and unlock does not exist on this thermostat. So you cannot lock out the keypad or lock out the thermostat from someone changing the temperature or anything, or changing the settings. But there is a form of factory reset, but it's not a factory reset, okay? So both of these functions don't exist on this thermostat. You have to change the settings manually in order to factory reset it. And that's the only way of doing that. And I can kind of show you where that is, but I would encourage you to check out my setup menu and install video on this thermostat. I'll link it in the cards up above, and I go more into detail on how to change those settings. But it is a hidden menu, and to access that hidden menu, you have to first click on the system button here, have the screen change, and then you hold down the fan button. So once you do that, it's going to bring up a function number and a setting number. Now, I go over this in my other video when I cover the settings menu and install. Okay, so please check out that video. But I'm just going to hit done on this. Let's do that one more time just to show you where it's at. Hold on the fan button. But this is like the way you would factory reset. You basically would have to go through these and make the proper selection, which I go through in that video, for each one of these. Okay, there's a whole bunch of different functions that you're going to need to change and adjust, okay, according to what they're supposed to be. And there's quite a bit of them. So that there is how you would kind of reset the settings on the thermostat. But if you want to reset the schedule, you're going to have to go through the schedule pretty much and click on schedule and go through each one of these days, hit edit, for each one of the days, you're going to have to do this and go through the time periods and set the time and temperature. I go over this in my 7-day programming video, so check that video out if you want to go more into detail on 7-day programming and kind of like resetting your schedule. But that there is the basics on how to do that. You really don't have an option for complete factory wipe on the unit at all. You have to go physically into each setting and rechange it or adjust it as needed. Same thing with the schedule. Same thing with those factory default settings, okay? There's just no quick way of doing it, even though some other thermostats, like even the Honeywells, they allow you to completely factory wipe it. There's nothing on the back of the thermostat either, like a little dip switch or some kind of like, button you press and hold with a pencil. There's nothing like that on this unit. So some thermostats just don't have a factory reset or a lock and unlock, okay? It's just the way it is. But this is still a very nice thermostat. I like how big the screen is on this. It's easily legible. I can see all the values, and the time is very easy to see, which is important because you want to set that and make sure that's set correctly for it to work correctly. And you can see the time and day and all these things very easily with a naked eye. Some of the screens on the thermostats are very small, and it makes it hard to see that basic information. And you'll be surprised how easy it is to mess that up because of the size of the screen being so small. I caught myself having a mistake where I had the AM and PM wrong on my schedule and the time on the thermostat, which was screwing everything up. It completely inverted my schedule. So that's something I talk about in my other video, 5 common mistakes with Honeywell thermostats. I go over some of the common mistakes I see people make in that video, but I encourage you to check that video out. Like I said, I have a separate video going over the setup and install in the settings menu, 7-day programming, manual override, and this video here kind of touching base on how to like kind of factory reset and the lack of unlock and lock. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out my other videos. I'll link them in the upper right cards up above. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.